Admiral Zekthara's mandibles clicked against her breathing apparatus as she studied the tactical display. The holographic battlefield showed her fleet's overwhelming advantage, 300 HFY heavy cruisers against the pathetic remains of humanity's third colonial defense force. 12 battered human ships limped through space, their hulls scarred and bleeding atmosphere. Pitiful, she hissed through a translator. The humans had fought bravely for 3 years, but bravery meant nothing against superior technology. Their weapons barely scratched HFY shields, while her plasma cannons turned their vessels into expanding clouds of debris. The human colony of New Geneva hung behind their defense line like a blue jewel, 7 million souls waiting for death. Zekthara would give them a clean end. Her species wasn't entirely without mercy. The orbital bombardment would be swift. Admiral, her tactical officer's voice carried confusion. We're detecting a massive energy signature emerging from hyperspace. Distance, 200,000 kilometers. Zekthara's compound eyes focused on the display. Space rippled like disturbed water, then tore open in a brilliant cascade of light. Something enormous pushed through the hyperspace rift, a ship unlike anything she'd ever seen. It was human in design, but impossibly large. The vessel stretched nearly 4 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull black as space itself. Weapon ports lined its flanks like the scales of some prehistoric predator. The bridge tower rose from its center like a cathedral spire, crowned with sensor arrays that swept the battlefield with mechanical precision. Classification. Zekthara demanded. Unknown Admiral. It matches no human design in our databases. Mass reading suggests this cannot be accurate. Report. 8 million tons. Admiral. It's larger than our dreadnoughts. The massive ship hung motionless for several heartbeats, its running lights the only sign of life. Then it began to move, not with the clumsy acceleration of human vessels, but with fluid grace that defied its size. Zekthara opened a communication channel. Unknown human vessel, you are ordered to surrender immediately. You are outnumbered 300 to 1. Comply or be destroyed. Silence. Human vessel, respond immediately. The ship's only answer was to increase speed, heading directly for the center of her formation. Zekthara's mandibles spread in what her species considered laughter. Suicide charge. How typically human. All ships, target the newcomer. I want it vaporized before it can ram us. Her fleet opened fire. 300 ships unleashed their fury. Plasma bolts, particle beams, and fusion torpedoes converged on the approaching battleship. The space around it became a storm of destructive energy. The weapons struck and did nothing. Impossible, Zekthara breathed. The human ship emerged from the barrage completely unharmed. Its shields hadn't even flickered. Admiral, we're receiving multiple targeting locks. The human vessel is. The battleship fired. Light erupted from its weapons, not the crude lasers and missiles of human technology, but something else entirely. Coherent energy beams, impossibly focused, reached out across space with surgical precision. Where they touched HFY ships, those vessels simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased. One moment Zekthara's heavy cruisers filled the tactical display. The next they were gone, leaving only empty space and confused sensor readings. Report. What happened to the Fist of HFY? Unknown Admiral. All sensor contact lost. No debris field detected. The human battleship turned toward another cluster of her ships. Again, those terrible weapons fired. Again, 6 heavy cruisers vanished without trace. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Concentrate fire on. Her words died as the battleship suddenly accelerated beyond anything physics should allow. One moment it hung 200,000 kilometers away. The next it had crossed half that distance in seconds. Admiral, that acceleration profile is impossible. Nothing that massive can move like that. Zekthara watched her tactical display update in real time. 20 ships gone. 30. 50. The mysterious battleship moved through a fleet like death itself, each weapon's discharge claiming more vessels. Her remaining ships scattered in panic, their formation collapsing. Admiral, incoming transmission from Captain Voss of the Human Defense Force. Put him through. A human face appeared on her screen, weathered, scarred, eyes wide with shock. Admiral Zekthara, what is that thing? We've never seen anything like it. It's not responding to our hails either. You expect me to believe this isn't yours? I swear by everything holy, Admiral, that ship doesn't match any human design. We're as confused as you are. The battleship continued its methodical destruction. It moved like a predator, positioning itself with calculated precision before striking. Each shot was perfectly placed, each target eliminated with ruthless efficiency. Admiral, her communications officer called out, "We're detecting something unusual. The ship is broadcasting on all frequencies, but it's not a message." "Explain." "It appears to be scanning. Some kind of data collection protocol. It's cataloging everything, ship designs, weapon signatures, tactical formations." Zekthara felt ice form in her veins. The battleship wasn't just fighting, it was learning. Each engagement made it more efficient, more deadly. All remaining ships retreat to hyperspace immediately. Emergency jump protocols. "Admiral, what about the colony?" She looked at the tactical display. Over half her fleet was gone, vanished without trace. The human battleship showed no damage, no signs of strain. It hung in space like some mechanical god, its weapons already turning toward her flagship. "The colony is no longer our concern. Jump now, or we all die here." Space around the surviving Kethvar ships began to ripple as they prepared to escape. But even as they fled, Zekthara couldn't tear her eyes from the mysterious battleship. It made no attempt to pursue them. Instead, it simply watched, its sensors tracking their retreat with mechanical indifference. As her ship entered hyperspace, Zekthara's last view was of the battleship turning toward the human defense fleet, and she wondered if humanity truly understood what they had unleashed. Captain Marcus Voss stared at the massive battleship through his viewport, his hands trembling against the cold metal of his command chair. In 30 years of service, he'd never seen anything that made him feel so small, so insignificant. "So, the Kethvar fleet has jumped to hyperspace. All hostiles have withdrawn from the system." Voss nodded absently, unable to look away from the mysterious vessel. It hung motionless now, its weapon port still glowing with residual energy. The space around it was completely empty. No debris, no wreckage, nothing to show that a massive fleet battle had just taken place. Communications, any response to our hails? "Negative, sir. We've tried every frequency, every protocol in the database. It's like shouting into a vacuum." "Life signs. That's the strangest part, sir. Our sensors detect massive power signatures, complex internal systems, but no biological activity, no crew compartments, no life support systems. It's like the ship is empty." Voss's executive officer, Commander Sarah Chen, moved to his side. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Sir, what do we do? That thing just eliminated 2/3 of a Kethvar battle fleet in less than 20 minutes. "I know what I saw, Chen, but I don't know what it means." The bridge fell silent as the battleship began to move again. It turned with mechanical precision, its massive bulk rotating until its bow faced the human defense fleet. Voss felt his heart stop. "Red alert. All ships, defensive positions." "Sir, it's not targeting us. Sensors show its weapons are powered down." Instead, the battleship began broadcasting. Not words or images, but pure data, technical specifications, star charts, tactical analyses. The information flooded their systems faster than their computers could process. "What the hell is it sending us?" Chen's face went pale as she studied her console. "Sir, these are Kethvar ship designs. Complete technical specifications, weapon systems, shield generators, propulsion technology. Everything would need to build counters to their advantages." The data stream continued. Construction blueprints for weapons that could penetrate Kethvar shields. Tactical algorithms for predicting their movement patterns. Even genetic analysis of their species, revealing biological weaknesses. "This is impossible," Voss breathed. "How could any ship gather this much intelligence in 20 minutes? His answer came as the battleship's hull began to change. What had appeared to be solid armor plating shifted and reformed, revealing observation ports and sensor arrays. The ship had been recording everything, not just the battle, but every detail of Kethvar technology and tactics. So, incoming priority transmission from Colonial Defense Headquarters. Admiral Harrison's weathered face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim. Captain Voss, what's your status? Our long-range sensors detected massive energy discharges in your sector. Admiral, the Kefar fleet has been eliminated. All 300 ships. Eliminated? By what? Your defense force was down to 12 ships. Voss gestured toward the viewport. By that, so. Harrison's eyes widened as his own sensors picked up the massive battleship. Christ almighty, what is that thing? We don't know, Admiral. It appeared just as the Kefar were moving in for the kill. No crew, no responsive communications. It destroyed their entire fleet and is now transmitting technical data about Kefar systems. Technical data? What kind of data? Chen stepped forward. Everything, Admiral. Complete specifications on their technology, tactical preferences, even biological information. It's like someone gave us a complete intelligence briefing on their entire species. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight Voss had never heard before. Captain, I need you to maintain position and continue monitoring that vessel. I'm scrambling every available ship to your location. Admiral, with respect, I don't think more ships will help. This thing eliminated 300 Kefar cruisers without taking damage. I'm not sending them to fight it, Captain. I'm sending them because in the last hour, we received reports of similar vessels appearing in 12 other systems, all of them facing Kefar attacks, all of them achieving the same results. The bridge fell silent. Voss felt the universe shift around him, as if reality itself was changing. 12 ships? All identical. Identical in function, different in design. Each one perfectly adapted to its specific battle zone. And Captain, none of them are responding to communications. None of them show crew signatures. They appear, they fight, they transmit data, and then what, Admiral? Then they disappear. 3 have already vanished after completing their missions. We have no idea where they come from or where they go. Voss looked back at the massive battleship. As he watched, its hull configuration was shifting again, weapons retracting and new systems emerging. The ship seemed to be rebuilding itself based on the data it had gathered. Admiral, I think this ship is learning. It's not just recording information. It's adapting, evolving its capabilities based on what it observes. Learning from what? Before Voss could answer, his tactical officer called out in alarm. Sir, we're detecting hyperspace signatures. Multiple contact emerging from jump. It's the Kefar fleet. They return with reinforcements. The tactical display lit up with new contacts. Not 300 ships this time, but over 1,000. The entire Kefar Second Imperial Fleet had come to New Geneva. Admiral, Voss said quietly, I think we're about to find out exactly what this ship is capable of. The mysterious battleship was already turning to face the new threat. Its hull began to reconfigure once more, new weapon systems emerging from its adaptive armor. But this time, Voss noticed something different. The ship's movements were more fluid, more precise. It had learned from the previous engagement and was preparing for a much larger battle. All human ships, pull back to minimum safe distance, Voss ordered. Whatever happens next, I don't think we want to be caught in the crossfire. As his ships retreated, the battleship advanced toward the Kefar reinforcements. A single vessel against 1,000 enemies. But somehow, Voss didn't think the odds favored the Kefar Empire. Supreme Admiral Thekvar materialized on the bridge of his flagship as a hyperspace transition completed. His massive form, larger and more decorated than any standard Kefar, dominated the command center. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of the Empire's highest military rank. Status report. Supreme Admiral, we've detected the human battleship at Coordinate 77 Mark IV. It appears to be alone. Thekvar's primary eyes focused on the tactical display, while his secondary eyes monitored ship status reports. The mysterious vessel looked insignificant compared to his fleet, one ship against 1,000 of the Empire's finest. Any communication attempts? Negative, Supreme Admiral. The vessel remained silent to all hails. and Admiral Zekthara's fleet. The bridge officer's mandibles clicked nervously. No trace remains, Supreme Admiral. Not even debris signatures. Thekvar had reviewed the battle recordings during his jump to New Geneva. The footage defied explanation, Kefvar's ship simply vanishing upon impact with a human vessel's weapons. No explosion, no wreckage, just instantaneous annihilation. Supreme Admiral, his science officer called out, "We're detecting unusual energy patterns from the target vessel. Its whole configuration appears to be shifting." Through the main viewport, Thekvar watched the human battleship transform. What had been a sleek warship moments before was now reconfiguring itself into something else entirely. New weapon mounts emerged from its adaptive hull while defensive systems repositioned themselves with mechanical precision. Analysis. Unknown technology, Supreme Admiral. The ship appears to be rebuilding itself in real time, optimizing its configuration for maximum efficiency against our fleet composition. Thekvar's mandible spread in what his species considered deep thought. In 3 centuries of conquest, he had never encountered adaptive technology this sophisticated. The ship wasn't just changing, it was evolving specifically to counter Kefvar tactics. All ships, maintain formation. Do not engage until ordered. The human battleship completed its transformation and began to move, not toward his fleet, but around them, taking a position that maximized its weapons coverage while minimizing return fire potential. The tactical genius of the maneuver impressed even Thekvar. "Supreme Admiral, we're receiving data transmission from the target vessel." "Display them." Information flooded the main screen, detailed analyses of his fleet's formation, weapon capabilities, shield frequencies. The ship had already cataloged every vessel under his command, and was now sharing that intelligence. "It's broadcasting this on all frequencies," his communications officer reported. "Every ship in the system is receiving the same data, including the human defense fleet." "Yes, Supreme Admiral." Thekvar realized the battleship strategy. It wasn't just gathering intelligence, it was ensuring that information reached other human forces. Every engagement made humanity stronger while weakening Kefvar tactical advantages. "All ships, commence attack. Pattern Omega-7. I want that vessel destroyed immediately." His fleet responded with devastating precision. 1,000 ships unleashed their weapons simultaneously, focusing all firepower on the lone human vessel. The space around it became a maelstrom of destruction energy. The battleship's response was immediate and terrifying. It didn't try to evade or defend. Instead, it simply absorbed the attack, its adaptive hull reconfiguring to channel the incoming energy into its own systems. Plasma bolts that should have destroyed it instead powered its weapons. Particle beams strengthened its shields. "Impossible," Thekvar whispered. The battleship fired back. The weapons it used bore no resemblance to anything in Thekvar databases. Coherent energy streams reached out across space, but instead of destroying his ships, they simply disconnected them. Vessels caught in those beams found their systems shutting down, their crews paralyzed by some unknown force. "Supreme Admiral, we're losing contact with entire squadrons. They are not being destroyed, they are being disabled." Thekvar watched his tactical display with growing horror. Ship after ship went dark, not destroyed but somehow neutralized. The human battleship was systematically disabling his fleet without killing anyone. "Why aren't they destroying us?" he demanded. His science officer's voice carried bewilderment. "Unknown, Supreme Admiral. The weapon appears designed for incapacitation rather than destruction. Our crews are unharmed but unable to control their vessels." The battleship continued its methodical advance through his fleet. Each disabled ship was scanned extensively before the vessel moved on to its next target. The process was clinical, efficient, almost gentle. "Supreme Admiral," his tactical officer called out, "the vessel is approaching our position." Through the viewport, Thekvar watched the massive ship draw alongside his flagship. Up close, its true size became apparent. Easily twice the mass of his dreadnought, its hull covered in sensor arrays that swept his ship with invisible beams. Then something unprecedented happened. A section of the battleship's hull opened, revealing a docking tunnel that extended toward his flagship. "It wants aboard us," Thekvar realized. "Supreme Admiral, our weapons are powering down." Ship systems are responding to external control signals. Thekvar felt his ship's artificial gravity fluctuate as unknown forces took control of his vessel systems. Emergency lighting flickered on as main power redistributed itself according to alien protocols. Sir, we're receiving a new transmission. Audio only. Put it through. For the first time since its appearance, the battleship spoke. But the voice that emerged wasn't human. It was Kefar. Perfect pronunciation, flawless grammar, speaking in Thekvar's own dialect. Supreme Admiral Thekvar, permission to come aboard. The voice was his own. The ship had analyzed his speech patterns from recorded communications and was speaking with his exact vocal characteristics. Who are you? Thekvar demanded. That information is classified. Will you grant permission to board? And if I refuse, then this conversation becomes irrelevant. Thekvar looked at his disabled fleet, at his powerless flagship, at the mysterious vessel that had effortlessly neutralized the Empire's finest military force. He had no choice, and they both knew it. Permission granted. You may board. Thank you, Supreme Admiral. Initiating docking procedures. As the two ships connected, Thekvar wondered what kind of being he was about to meet. The battleship showed no life signs, operated with mechanical precision, and displayed technology beyond anything known to exist. But in a few minutes, he would have his answers. The question was whether he would survive long enough to share them with the Empire. The docking tunnel filled with soft light as the airlock cycled open. Supreme Admiral Thekvar stood in his flagship's primary bay, flanked by his honor guard, waiting for his mysterious visitor to appear. What emerged was not what anyone expected. It looked human at first glance, bipedal, roughly 2 meters tall, wearing what appeared to be a simple gray uniform. But as it stepped into the light, details became apparent that made Thekvar's mandibles click in confusion. The being's skin had a subtle metallic sheen, and its eyes reflected light like polished silver. It moved with mechanical precision, each step perfectly measured. When it spoke, its voice carried no emotional inflection. Supreme Admiral Thekvar, I am Agent 77 Alpha of the Terran Autonomous Defense Network. Autonomous Defense Network. Thekvar's translators struggled with the unfamiliar terms. You're not human. Incorrect. I am human. I am simply not organic. Agent 77 Alpha approached with unhurried steps. As it drew closer, Thekvar could see fine lines of circuitry beneath its artificial skin and the faint hum of internal mechanisms. You're a machine. I am a human consciousness housed in a synthetic substrate. The distinction is largely philosophical. Thekvar's honor guard shifted nervously, their weapons trained on the artificial being. Agent 77 Alpha paid them no attention. I have come to discuss terms. Terms? You disabled my entire fleet. What terms could you possibly offer? The terms under which the Kefar Empire will cease its attacks on human colonies and withdraw from all occupied territories. The audacity of the statement left Thekvar speechless for a moment. You're demanding our surrender? One ship against the entire Empire. One ship against this fleet. Currently, 37 other vessels are engaged with Kefar forces throughout your territory. The pattern of engagement remained consistent. Agent 77 Alpha gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the air between them. It showed a star map of Kefar space, with multiple points of light indicating ongoing battles. As of this moment, 73% of your active military forces have been neutralized. Imperial shipyards on Kefar Prime have suspended all production due to material shortages. Your supply lines have been systematically disrupted. Thekvar stared at the display in growing horror. The points of light represented decades of military buildup, the finest ships and crews the Empire had ever produced. How is this possible? Where did these ships come from? They were constructed in response to your attacks on human colonies. Each vessel represents a consciousness of volunteers who chose to sacrifice their organic existence to defend their species. The implications hit Thekvar like a physical blow. You're saying these ships are crewed by the dead. Not dead, transformed. 38,000 human volunteers underwent consciousness transfer to operate these vessels. They retain their memories, their personalities, their tactical expertise, but are no longer constrained by organic limitations. Agent 77 Alpha's expression never changed, but something in its voice suggested deep emotion. They chose this transformation after witnessing the destruction of their homeworlds. Each volunteer watched as Kefar forces reduce their colonies to ash. The artificial being began to walk around the bay, its movements perfectly coordinated. The process was developed in secret over 18 months. Complete consciousness transfer, housing human minds in quantum processing matrices capable of controlling these adaptive vessels. But the technology required. Thekvar protested. Humans don't have the capability for this level of advancement. You are correct. Standard human technology could not achieve this result. However, the process was inspired by captured Kefar research, specifically your experiments with consciousness extraction on human prisoners. Thekvar felt ice form in his primary stomach. The classified research programs on Kefar Prime were known only to the highest levels of Imperial command. You've infiltrated our secure facilities. Infiltration was unnecessary. Your own research data was obtained during the liberation of Kepler Station 3 months ago. The human prisoners you were experimenting on provided complete technical specifications before they died. The holographic display shifted, showing technical readouts that Thekvar recognized, his own empire's consciousness transfer research, modified and perfected by desperate human scientists. So you turned our own weapons against us. We adapted your techniques for defensive purposes. The volunteers understood the cost. Once the transfer is complete, they cannot return to organic form. They become permanently bonded to their vessels. Agent 77 Alpha stopped directly in front of Thekvar. Each ship you've encountered today represents someone who gave up their humanity to save it. They are no longer bound by flesh, but they retain everything that made them human, their compassion, their determination, their love for their species, and their capacity for revenge. That remains to be seen. The artificial being's eyes seem to focus on something beyond the physical world. The volunteers have voted on how to proceed. Some advocate for complete destruction of your military capability. Others suggest total elimination of your species as a threat. Thekvar's mandibles clicked in fear. And what did they decide? They chose a third option, one that demonstrates why humanity deserves to survive this war. Agent 77 Alpha gestured again, and the holographic display changed to show Kefar space in real time. The points of light representing human battleships began to move, but not toward population centers or industrial targets. All Kefar military personnel will be returned to your territory unharmed. Your ships will be repaired and released. Your soldiers will be allowed to go home. You're letting us go. With conditions. The Kefar Empire will withdraw from all human territories within 90 standard days. All human prisoners will be released immediately. Any future attacks on human colonies will result in immediate retaliation. Thekvar stared at the display, hardly believing what he was seeing. Why? You have us completely defeated. You could destroy the Empire entirely. Agent 77 Alpha's expression remained neutral, but its voice carried something that might have been sadness. Because that is what humans do, Supreme Admiral. Even when transformed beyond recognition, even when pushed to the brink of extinction, they choose mercy over vengeance. The artificial being turned toward the docking tunnel. You have 72 hours to begin your withdrawal. I suggest you use that time wisely. As Agent 77 Alpha reached the airlock, Thekvar called out, "What happens to you? To the volunteers in those ships?" The artificial being paused. "We continue to serve. Humanity may not need us now, but someday they might face another threat. We will be waiting." Waiting where? Somewhere between the stars, Supreme Admiral. Watching, protecting, remembering what we chose to sacrifice. The airlock sealed, and moments later, Thekvar watched a massive battleship detach from his flagship. As it moved away, he realized he might have just witnessed the future of warfare, and perhaps the future of consciousness itself. 6 months later, Captain Marcus Voss stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, watching construction crews work on the system's new defense platforms. The war was over, but the memory of that day still haunted him. "So," Commander Chen approached with a datapad in her hands. "The intelligence report you requested." Voss accepted the pad and scrolled through the information. Since the Kethvar withdrawal, humanity had been trying to understand what they had witnessed. The results were both fascinating and troubling. Any new contact with the battleships. Sporadic sightings along the frontier. They appear briefly, scan for threats, then disappear. No communication attempts have been successful. Voss nodded. The mysterious vessels had vanished as suddenly as they'd appeared, leaving behind only questions and the technical data they transmitted during their battles. What about the consciousness transfer technology? Chen's expression darkened. Our best scientists have been studying the data. The process is theoretically possible, but the cost? She paused. So, the volunteers didn't just give up their organic bodies. The transfer process requires complete neural dissolution. Their organic brains were essentially destroyed to create the quantum matrices. So they really are dead, in a sense. Dead and yet more alive than ever. The matrices show continuous activity, complex thought patterns, even what appear to be dreams. They retain every memory, every emotion, but they exist in a form we can barely comprehend. Voss looked out at the stars, wondering if somewhere among them, 38,000 human minds continue their eternal watch. Have we learned anything about who organized this program? That's the strangest part, sir. There are no records of any official consciousness transfer project. No government approval, no military oversight. It appears to have been entirely volunteer-driven, organized by the families and survivors of destroyed colonies. The implications were staggering. While official human leadership had struggled to mount an effective defense, ordinary citizens had secretly developed the most advanced technology in known space. Sir, there's something else, Chen continued. We detected similar quantum signatures in 7 other star systems. Not battleships, something smaller. Show me. Chen activated a holographic display showing nearby star systems. Small points of light indicated the detected signatures. Reconnaissance vessels, we think. They are mapping Kethvar territory, monitoring their withdrawal, ensuring compliance with the peace terms. They are still protecting us. More than that, sir. Intelligence suggests they are establishing some kind of network, a permanent early warning system that spans dozens of star systems. If humanity ever faces another existential threat, we'll know about it immediately. Voss thought about the volunteers who had made this possible. Fathers and mothers who had watched their children die in Kethvar attacks. Soldiers who had seen their comrades vaporized by alien weapons. Scientists who had witnessed the destruction of years of research. All of them had chosen transformation over death, service over rest. So, there's one more thing, Chen said quietly. We've been monitoring the quantum matrices through long-range sensors. The activity patterns suggest they are not just maintaining their consciousness, they're evolving it. Evolving how? Becoming something more than human, but retaining everything that made them human in the first place. They are developing capabilities we can't even measure, but the core personality patterns remain unchanged. As if summoned by their conversation, space near the station began to shimmer. A familiar shape materialized, one of the mysterious battleships, smaller than the vessel that had saved New Geneva but unmistakably similar in design. Red alert. Chen asked. No, I don't think they mean harm. The ship held position for several minutes, its sensors sweeping the station and surrounding space. Then it transmitted a single message on the emergency frequency. New Geneva Station. This is Eternal Guardian 77 Alpha. All systems secure. Continue construction. We are watching. The voice was synthetic but carried a warmth that spoke of retained humanity. Before Voss could respond, the ship faded from view, returning to whatever dimension it now called home. Guardian, Voss repeated softly. They've named themselves Guardians. So, the message originated from the same quantum signature as the agent who boarded the Kethvar flagship. The consciousness that saved us is still out there. Voss smiled for the first time in months. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, 38,000 human souls continued to serve their species. They had sacrificed their humanity to save it, but in doing so, they had perhaps discovered what humanity truly meant. Make a note in the station log, he told Chen. Today we received confirmation that we are not alone. The Eternal Guardians continue their watch, ensuring that never again will humanity face extinction without defense. As the station's lights dimmed to simulate nightfall, Voss remained at the observation deck. Among the stars, invisible to normal senses but present nonetheless, the Guardians maintained their vigil. They were no longer human in body, but their hearts, if quantum matrices could have hearts, remained forever loyal to the species they had died to protect. The war was over, but the watch had just begun. In the depths of space, where light itself grew tired and faded, the Eternal Guardians patrolled the boundaries between known and unknown. They moved through dimensions that organic minds could never comprehend, powered by the love and sacrifice that had driven them to transformation. They had entered the war zone without crew, without signal, without mercy for humanity's enemies. But they had emerged as something greater, eternal protectors who would ensure that no human world would ever burn unanswered again. The battleships were gone, but their legacy lived on in every star that shined upon a free human colony, in every child born under an unoccupied sky, in every dream that dared to reach beyond the safety of known space. And in the quantum realm where consciousness touched infinity, 38,000 voices whispered their eternal promise. We remain, we watch, we remember, and we will never let you fall. Chat Control Sonnet 4.